The ship broke in two. People jumped off the ship as she went down. If they didn't die by being drowned when the ship slumped, they died from hypothermia almost immediately. People poured into the lifeboats, and others looked for any passengers left alive. They rode to the Carpathia and received help when they arrived. Families were tragically separated, and the world was shocked by what happened. The unsinkable ship had tragically been lost. Even though the Titanic was on the bottom of the ocean, scientists were fascinated by the shipwreck. Since 1987, scientists have made 7 trips down to the Titanic wreckage and recovered more than 5,500 artifacts. Aaron McCarthy wrote an article about some of the artifacts that were recovered. For example, in 1987 was a bronze deck bell that Frederick Fleet, a lookout, ran when he saw the iceberg. Also in 1987 was a bronze chair that could have come from the upper floor of the grand staircase. According to Aaron McCarthy, the statue is missing both its torch and its left foot, which may have been lost when it was wrenched from its post. Another artifact that was recovered was dress boots and a wool vest from William Henry Allen, a third-class passenger who died in the shipwreck. One more artifact that was recovered was a bowler hat that was found in 1993. It was not in a bag or trunk, and it still survived. These are a few artifacts that survived being underwater for 75 years. One more thing that happened after the Titanic sank was that survivors told their stories to the world. One very famous survivor was Margaret Molly Brown. Known as the unsinkable Molly Brown, she was famous for going back for people on the Titanic in a lifeboat. She also helped hand out supplies to them when they arrived on the Carpathia. There are no survivors from the Titanic still alive today. According to Reader's Digest, the last survivor, Lavina D., who was just 2 months old at the time of the shipwreck, died in 2009 at the age of 97. Another famous survivor from the Titanic was Eva Hart. She was only 7 years old when the Titanic sank. In 2014, a letter from her dad went up for auction. He had helped her and her mom get into a lifeboat, and that was when she realized that her dad wasn't coming with them. He tragically died in the shipwreck. Violet Jessup also survived the Titanic shipwreck. She was called even more unsinkable than Molly Brown because she survived 3 different shipwrecks, all built by the same company, the White Star Line. When she was on the Olympic, it collided with another ship but didn't sink. When she was on the Titanic, she boarded Lifeboat 16 and was saved. The last shipwreck she survived was when she was on the Titanic's sister ship, the Britannic. The ship ran into a German mine and sank. Jessup survived, however, only sustaining a skull fracture. One more famous survivor from the shipwreck was Chambers Ismay. He was the president of the International Mercantile Maritime Company, Titanic's parent company. Ismay played the villain in the movie Titanic for getting on the first lifeboat. In actuality, this was proved to not be true. He claimed to have made sure that no women and children were left, and then boarded a lifeboat. These are a few famous survivors from the Titanic. After the Titanic shipwreck, priceless artifacts were brought up from the depths of the ocean, and survivors told stories of one of the grandest ships that's ever been built. The Titanic sank because it hit an iceberg. Hours later, with no help to be found, Titanic broke in two and sank into the freezing waters of the Atlantic Ocean. 75 years after the tragedy, scientists have recovered more than 5,500 artifacts, such as clothes, bronze objects, hats, and letters. Survivors such as Molly Brown, Chambers Ismay, Violet Jessup, and Eva Hart were all famous for surviving the shipwreck. After the Titanic sank, the tragedy opened the door for years of exploration and many fascinating stories to be told. Thank you. Please welcome Adele Stay, who is speaking on the Newsies.
Now is the time to seize the day. This is one quote from one of my favorite musicals, Newsies. Newsies is about the Newsboys Strike of 1899. The Newsboys Strike and the musical Newsies both show how much the Newsies cared and fought for their ideals. The year 1899 was a time of new lifestyles and ideas. Once the Reconstruction period after the Civil War ended, urban ideas started to bloom. Many new cities were made, and they became increasingly popular. People were attracted to these cities because of the new transportation, like trains and trams. So many people moved to become a part of cities that cities became crowded, dirty, and a bad place to live. Newspapers were also popular during the 1890s. Since the television was not yet invented to find out the news, people read newspapers. One way for people to get newspapers was from newsboys. These boys usually came from poor families and sold newspapers to get money. They would buy 100 newspapers for 50 cents from a company such as the New York World or the Yellow Journal. They would march around the streets of New York and say things like, "Extra, extra, hear all about it." The Newsboy Strike of 1899 was primarily because of the increase in price of newspapers. Joseph Pulitzer was the owner of the New York World. He increased the price of 100 newspapers from 50 cents to 60 cents. Also, William Hearst, the owner of the Yellow Journal, increased the prices. This was a huge deal for the newsies since this was the only way for them to get money, and they lived on the streets of New York. There were about 10,000 children living there. They were so upset that they decided to go on strike. The Newsies made a Newsboy Strike Committee with an adult, James G. Neal, as president, and Racetrack Higgins as the vice president. Racetrack Higgins was known to be the voice of Brooklyn. The Newsboys had many protests, including marching around the streets of New York to the newspaper offices. They would say bitter comments like "Down with the World and Journal," and "Now is the time to arbitrate." Also, if they saw any newsboys not on strike buying newspapers, they would jump them. One in particular was a 15-year-old named Riley, who did not agree with the actions of the newsies. When the newsboys found out, he was in big trouble. They tortured him like they did many others. They tore up his wares and rooted him. Many other violent fights took place, and the newsies were usually roughly handled after. In addition to the protesting and torture, the newsies would follow delivery wagons. The drivers were said to be followed by a howling mob of half-grown men and boys. The boys would throw brickbats and stones at them. These final acts contributed to some of the boys being arrested. This included two 11-year-olds, Arthur Luft and Joseph Baldwin. Joseph Baldwin was arrested for ripping up another newsboy's papers. Also, earlier that day, they found a boy from the clutches of the strikers and claimed that Luft and Baldwin were involved. The two boys were taken to Tombs Police Court. Even after all the violence, the newsies never actually won the strike. They planned to change the price of newspapers from 60 cents to its original price, 50 cents. In the end, they compromised. The newspaper price was changed to 55 cents. The Newsboy Strike of 1899 was so interesting that it became a Disney film in 1992. Later, in 2012, it became an award-winning Broadway musical. There are many similarities between the real story and the musical. First, the characters. The main characters in the musical are Jack Kelly, Crunchy, Catherine, and Joseph Pulitzer. Jack Kelly was the leader of the strike in the musical, but not in the real story. The leaders of the strike were the president, James G. Neal, and the vice president, Racetrack Higgins, of the Newsboy Strike Committee. Jack Kelly's best friend, Crunchy, was a made-up character in the musical. However, Joseph Pulitzer was in the story. He did own the New York World, and he was one of the reasons why the newsies went on strike. His daughter, Catherine, was made up though. The overall plot of Newsies is the New York newsboys going on strike against Joseph Pulitzer, with an additional romance between Jack Kelly and Catherine Pulitzer. The newsies felt very strongly about their cause and would violently protest about it. For example, in the musical Newsboy Brothers, who tried to buy newspapers during the strike, the newsies were about to fight, but they ended up being friends. Since the newsboys were orphans and didn't get a proper education, they had newsboy slang. Some of this was said in the lyrics. One of the lyrics is, "What's it gonna take to stop these scabbers?" Scabbers was a word to describe a person who was in the newspaper industry that they were striking against. Another lyric is, "Sucking every sucker that we can." Sucker means to fight, so this means that they would fight anyone in their way. The lyrics also show how much emotion was put in the strike and how much the newsies cared about their cause. For example, the song "The World Will Know" is the song that comes after the newsies find out about the increase in newspaper price. It is a high-intensity song that combines music with protests. As the newsies get more angry, the song gets more intense. Some of the lyrics include, "Mr. Hertzen Pulitzer, we've got news for you." This was very accurate because of Hertzen Pulitzer owning the newspaper industries and increasing the prices. Another lyric is, "Pulitzer may own the world, but he don't own us." Walter owned the Mirror World, and the Newsies were trying to say that he couldn't control them. In addition to the lyrics about the Newsies' slang or emotion, there are some romance in Newsies. In the beginning of the musical, the Newsies asked Catherine for help, since she was a journalist. With a lot of debating, she finally agreed. There's actually a song about her writing a story about the Newsies called Watch What Happens. In this song, Catherine struggles to come up with an idea for the article. She discovers how important the Newsies, especially the case of Jack Kelly, are to her and comes up with an idea for the article. At the end of the song, she realizes that the Newsies just might win a strike, but that she will have to watch what happens. As her fondness for Jack Kelly grows, she realizes that he is leaving for Santa Fe. They have a duet together called Something to Believe In. In this song, they tell each other their thoughts and feelings about what love is. One of the lyrics is, I have something to believe in, now that I know you believe in me. In the end, they come to an agreement that even if they can't be together forever, at least they can have one day. The Newsboys Strike of 1899 and the musical Newsies have differences, but they both share an important concept: how it is important to stand up for what you believe in. Many people are too scared to be brave and to take that step into victory. We have to focus on the benefits and not the risks of failing. Once we do, we can seize the day, just like the Newsies did. Thank you. Please welcome Taylor Myers, who is speaking on the Mountain Project.
Have you ever watched Stranger Things? It's a very popular TV show based on an outlandish idea of keys with mind control and the exploration of interdimensional realities. What if I told you that the topic of the show might not be that outlandish after all? The idea for Stranger Things came from a pretty unknown conspiracy theory called the Montauk Project. In fact, the show was supposed to be called the Montauk Project, but with a few complications, directors decided to change it. This conspiracy theory revolves around mind control and interdimensional travel and how the military was using it. The Montauk Project originated in Montauk, New York, on the base of Camp Hero in the 1940s and 1950s. After it closed, it was transformed to a state park in 2002. The base of Camp Hero had a rotating radar tower at the front of the base. This tower would give people headaches, bad dreams, and make their electronic devices go crazy. This tower is no longer in use. However, people claim to see it change directions occasionally. The park has boarded up windows and doors with signs that say, do not enter or keep out. People are not permitted to go into the base, however, they are allowed to look around the park for whatever they think they might find. This might sound super unbelievable, but there are people who firmly believe in the theory and firmly believe that it happens. One of them was Christopher Gaetano, who was convinced that there was an underground bunker of some sort underneath the original facility. So he used geographical readings to essentially take a picture of the ground below. He discovered a large man-made structure, which would be common because it is a military base after all. Regardless, Christopher Gaetano made a documentary called The Montauk Chronicles in 2014, which explored allegations brought by 3 men who claimed to have been brainwashed and forced to take part in the experiments at Camp Hero. Another one of his theories for unbelievers is Brian Minnick, who was exploring the base with his friends when he stumbled upon receipts for thousands of dollars of food dating back to the 1980s after the base had closed. In what now stands as the park, there are a bunch of random grades and concrete slabs, which would lead someone to believe that there is something underneath that they would not want anyone to know about. The mind control aspect of this project is very interesting. The reason that the United States has supposedly tried to control people's minds more than once is because we are trying to be a lead on what we think potential other countries have. If mind control is even possible, we still don't fully understand the effects of having a person under the influence of mind control that we people know about. In fact, the CIA might already have a mind control subject that we would have no idea about. But for the purpose of this project, we're going to say that they do not. If they had wanted to get a mind control subject and they had failed beginning one at Montauk, perhaps they had tried again. Maybe they have, maybe there's a project going on right now that we have no idea about that would get a mind control person. However, the downsides of mind control and how to get it might be larger than the positive sides. If you have ever watched Stranger Things, you know that the show is about a grown-up 11 who can do things with her mind. She also opened the gate to another dimension for the corrupt government to experiment. conspiracy theorists curious. If the show is based heavily on the theory, then what else is the government planning on base? Which then leads to interdimensional travel, which then leads to the question, is that even possible? All we really have right now are theories, but hypothetically, if space and time continues on forever, then it's only possible that it must repeat itself at some point. After all, particles can only arrange themselves in some different ways. So if it does exist, it might also pose the question, can we travel to other dimensions? Again, all we have are theories, but NASA thinks that there are portals in space. However, we have no idea what that actually means because these portals are very unpredictable and only open at certain times. And we really do not know why or what is in them, or perhaps even where they lead. This conspiracy theory might seem very crazy and super unbelievable to you, so let me introduce you to the MK Ultra Project. The MK Ultra Project was a series of CIA-led experiments that experimented on people for the sole purpose of trying to gain mind control. The CIA would inject experimentees with a dose of LSD, which is a very harmful drug, which is a potent hallucinogenic compound. They also tested with electroshock therapy, which in some cases can be a good thing, but they tested with 35 times the normal amount, which can mess up a human permanently. The reason for this was that the United States feared that the Soviet Union, North Korea, and China were trying to control their citizens using mind control. Once President Ford discovered what was going on, he created a law that states experimentation with drugs on human subjects, except with the informed consent witnessed by a disinterested party and in writing, is illegal and cannot pass. This experiment was taking place in the 1950s and early 1960s when Montauk was supposed to be happening. In conclusion, the Montauk Project is a very interesting conspiracy theory that has to do with interdimensional travel and mind control. The theory is connected to theories all along the same topics. What the government has done, some of it we might not ever really know. However cool this theory sounds, I don't really think that it happened. There's potential for another theory like this to exist, but with this one, it just doesn't seem very logical to me. However, we won't ever really know the truth to the mystery of Canada. Thank you. Please welcome Amelia Raymond, who's speaking on CSI Effect. Studies have shown that 1 in 4 people consume true crime content multiple times a week, and 1 in 3 people consume it at least once a week. This leads me to the question, why are people so fascinated by true crime and how does it affect us? True crime can affect us and can also affect jurors in criminal cases. It can make jurors want more forensic evidence than is available and can make them uncomfortable without it. Humans do not usually think about taking the life of another, and if we do, we would only expect it to be because of self-defense. Many people do not realize what people are capable of. When these cases of crime like murder are told in the news or in the media, the public tends to latch onto them, and we see what humans can do. Why do we latch onto these cases? Because they're the ultimate human dramas and the most terrifying horror stories, says Catherine Casey of the Boston Globe. The fascination with true crime dates back to the 1500s, if not earlier. Approaching there, town leaders would report terrible local crimes as a way to teach a moral lesson. Crime fiction thrived in the 1800s and 1900s. In 1966, a book called In Cold Blood by Truman Capote changed the way authors wrote crime novels and the way critics reviewed them. The book is about two men named Dick Hinnick and Perry Smith and how they conspired and killed the Clutter family in rural Kansas. It won the Edgar Award for the best fact crime. Another popular way that true crime is told is through podcasts. In 2014, podcasts about true crime became popular. One of these very popular podcasts is Serial, which is still the fastest podcast to ever reach 5 million downloads. Ever since the podcast, true crime grew in popularity. Another popular form of true crime is television. Many popular shows include Law & Order and CSI Crime Scene Investigation, as well as Criminal Minds. One study says that 30 million people watch CSI Crime Scene Investigation in only one night. The same study also found that 40 million people watched 2 different CSI dramas called Cold Case and Without a Trace. Those and many other percentages have translated into the fact, which is 5 of the top 10 television programs that week were about scientific evidence in criminal cases. TFA amassed more than 100 million viewers, says an author from the National Institute of Justice. There are also documentaries about popular cases of crime people have heard about, like the story of crime cases that people may not have heard about, many of which are on Netflix. One example is the Netflix docuseries Dahmer Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story. This is a show about the life of Jeffrey Dahmer. Other documentaries or docuseries are on Netflix, such as Catching Killers and a series about a more recent case, Murder on Murder's December Schedule. Many people watch these shows, so how do they affect us? One way that true crime can affect us is because it can make us more paranoid and anxious. Too much true crime ceases to be about curiosity and starts becoming fear-based instead, according to the Healthy Journal. Studies have shown it can increase fears of becoming a victim in a situation like the cases people watch or hear about. There are cases where people can develop antisocial personality disorder, or ASD. Exposure to true crime can also cause depression. Another way it can affect people is called the CSI effect. The CSI effect is how shows like CSI and other shows can affect jurors and how they view jurors. This term started in 2002 in a Time magazine article about forensics and claimed that the use of the term CSI effect was becoming common among law enforcement officials to refer to the growing public awareness of forensic science. Many studies have been done on the CSI effect. One study said that jurors may be reluctant to convict if police were unable to find or recover any forensic evidence. Another study shows that some things that many jurors expect to see, an eyewitness testimony, DNA evidence, fingerprint evidence, ballistics or other firearm evidence, and circumstantial evidence. In rape cases, CSI viewers were less likely to convict if there was a lack of DNA evidence or if DNA evidence was not presented. Also, in theft and breaking and entering cases, people who watch CSI were more likely to convict someone if there was a testimony from a victim or another testimony without fingerprint evidence. More studies show that 22% of jurors expect to see DNA evidence in every case, and 36% expected to see fingerprint evidence in every case. 32% expected to see firearm or ballistic evidence in every case, and 46% expect to see some kind of scientific evidence in every case. The CSI effect can affect the courtroom because the jurors can have unrealistic expectations with forensic evidence. Jurors who watch crime-based shows can have more emphasis, as stated in the studies and statistics above. This can make it harder for jurors to convict if there's a lack of evidence and many do not feel comfortable. The CSI effect can hurt the defense because, according to the Esfandi law group, weaker and accurate evidence presented by the prosecution is likely to be perceived as absolute and irrefutable proof of the crime, when in reality it is flawed evidence. While there are negative parts to the CSI effect, there can be some positives. Because the CSI effect causes people to want more forensic evidence than is available, many jurors are becoming more knowledgeable with forensics. Many of the statistics were of jurors who watch shows like CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, and expect more evidence, they are more knowledgeable. Though sometimes well-informed jurors aren't always a good thing, and some jurors think they know more about forensic evidence than they really do. Another reason the CSI effect can be good is because it is making the interest in criminal justice increase. This is making people more aware of what is going on around them and their country, and can help people know what they have to look out for. It can also bring the work people do in the criminal justice field to life, and they can often be overlooked. In conclusion, true crime can affect us in many different ways. People can become hooked on true crime, and we tend to find it fascinating. As Steve Martin's character from Only Murders in the Building said, every true crime story is actually true for someone. Thank you. Please welcome Chandler Patrick, who is speaking on Ottawa.
In August every year, football fans all over the country look forward to the first football game of the season. Fans begin to wear the school colors and mascots of their favorite teams. From the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12, Pac-12, and especially the SEC, no one shows their devotion to their favorite teams like those of us in the South. That said, we all know about UGA, one of the nation's most well-known mascots. The mascot of the past two national championship winners, University of Georgia. He got his name from the initials of the University of Georgia. Each UGA has been a pure, solid white English bulldog that is known for its white power. The evolution of UGA, the mascot over the years, reveals fascinating stories of a dedicated family, loving fan base, and unique game day traditions that were just everyone, not just Georgia fans. UGA's mascot mascot was first a goat in 1892. The goat wore a black coat with UG letters on the side and a hat with ribbons on the side. 2 years later, the mascot changed from a goat to a bulldog, the mascot which you're all familiar with. It all started with Trilby and her 13 puppies. Trilby was a solid white female bull terrier owned by a University of Georgia student named Charles H. Black. She got her name from a novel by George Du Maurier. She and her puppies were running the sidelines barking during practice on a Hurdy Field, which is now called Sanford Stadium. This is how UGA received the name Bulldogs. She served as the mascot for UGA and the Chi Phi fraternity. Since Trilby, there have been 10 others all owned by the Siler family. Each other has been related in some way, usually being the son, grandson from the other before. The most known others are Other 3 and Other 5. Other 3 won 6 bowl games and finished his career winning the 1980 NCAA championship. Other 5 made his appearance in the April 28, 1997 issue of Sports Illustrated. In 1956, Sonny and Cecilia Siler of Savannah, Georgia were given a bulldog for their wedding and took it to a game. Their dog was wearing a jersey handmade by Cecilia. This sparked people's attention, and ever since then, the Silers and their dog were invited back to every game each season. This led to their bulldog becoming the school's official mascot. The Silers don't get paid to bring their dog to each game, they simply consider it an honor. When Sonny and Cecilia Siler passed, their son, Charles, took ownership of them. Since that time, there have been 10 others from 6 different decades. Each other has gone through tryouts, which takes roughly 3 months. They pick the best dog, one that is polite and obedient. Cecilia always chose the chubbier bulldogs. She thought they looked like football players or linebackers. On the other hand, Charles thought the tall, lean bulldogs were a better choice. They were able to handle the heat better, had less orthopedic issues, and overall not as many health issues. Kyle Siler currently owns Other 10 per year. You are served as a current Other since 2015. Football game days, Other travels with the team, either driven by his owner or flies. After several years at the same job, Other still gets nervous when he's leaving. According to Charles Siler, he packs his clothes and food, pulls out the car, and Other still gets nervous until he gets on the road. Other is a shy dog. He takes a nap before each game to get energized for his job. He represents the team with a custom-made jersey made out of the same material as the players' jerseys. People can take as many pictures as they want to with Other, but they can't pet him. Also, Other receives a varsity letter for overall performance and cooperation, just like the players. It is given in black gold. At home games, you can expect to see Other by the cheerleaders' platform in his permanent air-conditioned house. If you're lucky,